If you're a QuickBooks customer looking to grow without the growing pains, you need the Intuit ERP, the AI native ERP that upgrades right from QuickBooks. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good afternoon, everybody. David Paterson with Jake Novak, and that can only mean the left versus the right. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, and we think we have a bit of a unique idea to talk about today. We'll get to Iran, and we'll get to the negotiations and that kind of thing. But yesterday was known for years, this particular date. I guess it's June 19th of every year. As a very special day, and it really commemorates, in some cases, the actual date that the slaves were freed, more like in 1866, and it also connotes the whole idea of a victory in the end for the entire country, for America, and many people, as Jake was pointing out to me yesterday, still don't really know what the date is about. And so, Jake, you've had 24 hours to think about it, and then I'll put my 2 cents in. Give it a whirl.
Well, I liked your description of it just now. You know, it's important to... I think that this national holiday that we had yesterday, the federal holiday, the markets are closed and banks closed and all that kind of stuff, I like the celebration aspect of it. Are we celebrating the end of slavery in America? And there's a lot of reasons to celebrate that, beyond whether you're black or white. For one thing, I think that the end of slavery in this country was a huge economic boost to this country. Slavery was keeping a huge amount of the country backward economically. You know, slavery was all about agrarian society. And I think even people who are trying to be on the right side of history talk about it as if, yeah, that's how we got rich in America. It was because of the slaves and the agrarian society, and they were doing the tobacco and the cotton. Like, no, they were holding us back. Agrarian, it's very difficult to have upward mobility in agrarian society because land is the one thing they're not making any more of, you know?
Right.
And the more your country is in an agrarian type economy, the more everyone suffers, really. And there's very little upward mobility. So the idea, you know, that's the whole message of that 1619 project, which has been completely undermined and proven to be completely wrong on a lot of things, historical fact. But the feel of it, basically the premise is America was founded on slavery, not slavery was a part of America as a stain on our early history and things like that.
It was founded on an existing, something that was already going on here. It wasn't that right after they founded the country, they decided to go out and round up a bunch of people and turn them into slaves.
Yeah, or trying to create this notion that slavery built this country. Look, slavery, slavery, no. African Americans, yes. African Americans, we know now, contribute. If you read very, very interesting books like Roll, Jordan, Roll and The World They Built Together, they contributed a lot to the culture of this country in the South, the architecture, things like that. Slavery was a drag on this country, not just morally, but I believe economically. And
that's a very good point.
Yeah,
and
it's nothing to be...
They built it together. Yeah. Really, they lay it out.
Yeah,
very
really
well.
Good book. A really good book. I read that. Barbara Fields at Columbia assigned that book for our History of the South class. She was tough, by the way. She took points off on the final if you wrote in the margins. I kid you not. In the blue book. In the old days when you had a blue book test.
Well, this was a Columbia professor. We went through this. I'm a little older than you. We went through the same thing.
Yeah.
Over a period of time. We had a professor once that told people to feel free to raise their hands, but he never called on anyone.
Yeah. There were some good ones, though, obviously. But anyway,
was James Shenton
yes,
still around?
He was still around then.
Yeah,
I was lucky. I caught all this. I caught Kenneth Jackson, who was the great history professor there as well. I was a political science major, but I took a lot of the history classes. And for some reason, his name is escaping me. Shame on me. African-American teacher who used to teach a constitutional history class for many, many years. Payne, I think his name. No, not Payne.
Oh,
Charles something, CV. We'll look it up. We'll find it. But we'll go to break. After we go to break, I'll get his name when we come back.
we got it.
But I was there for some of the great leading. I wasn't there in time for for Mark Van Doren or something like that. But or Lionel Trilling. I was too young for that.
Was that professor's name possibly Nathan?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No. So anyway, my point is, this country was not founded on slavery. Slavery we're lucky that we were founded despite slavery. And this idea that the country wouldn't have been able to have been economically function without slavery is not the message I think we should be focusing on this Juneteenth weekend. I think we should be celebrating it. And if we want to also mention the hardships of slavery and the evil of it and the human, just the human crimes that were committed, that's fine. But if you want it to be a celebrating and a day off, then let's make it more of a celebration of the end of this thing without erasing it from history. That's my point.
I agree. And that was, we did the morning show yesterday, how we eventually agreed on that really you don't have to get mad every time there's a holiday that, connotes some sort of a problem or particular dates that go down in history, like December 7th, 1941. You don't have to walk around angry the whole day. You can walk around thinking, well, that's the day our country knew we had to get into this war before they started coming at us. But I find sometimes people get stuck on the fact that some of these holidays involve time off, and they don't think people should be taking time off. I think it's great.
But if you're doing repentance, you can't do that. Repentance has got to be about true contrition on your part. And you can't say, oh, other countries were doing it and we got rid of it. And I mean, you got to say we were wrong, and beat your heart and wear the sackcloth and ashes. And I think that there's a place for that to some degree when you're learning history, to realize how horrible slavery was and how there were people who were from the very beginning of the founding of this country were saying we got to get rid of it, and they were ignored or they were overruled. That's absolutely worth learning. But I mean, how much beating of our chests are we supposed to do over this at this point and not move on? I mean, there's got to be a happy medium between not wanting us to cry over this and make everyone feel bad about it and erasing history. I don't want history to be erased. I want the history of slavery to be part of an integral part of the history curriculum in our public schools. Absolutely. And I don't want it erased. At the same time, this isn't about making 12-year-old white kids feel bad in class because somebody had slaves. It's silly. It's stupid.
And that's why I thought you made such a brilliant point before when you were saying that you like the celebration aspect of it, the positive of it, that now people were, they still had a hard way to go because, many of them stayed on the farms of the masters and became sharecroppers, but it was an opportunity for them to live by themselves, to raise families, and to become part of society. And that really, as you said before, it really should be celebrated. And it might really be the best celebration of Juneteenth. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's also the great economic liberation that came from the end of slavery. The South, because they immediately a lot of the South went into Jim Crow laws, at least after the Reconstruction period, continued to stunt their economic growth. But by the mid to later 20th century, when they finally had gotten rid of Jim Crow completely and all those vestiges of slavery, I mean, the Sun Belt's rise economically was a huge deal, but it also tells you, what did they miss out on? They missed out on the railroads for the most part. They missed out on tremendous amount of the industrial advancements and improvements in this country. And now we can celebrate the fact that anywhere in this country right now can be a good place to open up a factory or a store, because you don't have to worry about unless you have crazy taxes and regulations. That's a different story. But you're not dealing with places where individual humans have different status. That's important.
And I really never understood the actions of some of the Southerners into the 50s and 60s, where it meant a lot to them to ride on a bus with people only that look like them, and that kind of thing. And meanwhile, the people that they left off the bus could have contributed to the economic development of that time, but they couldn't get jobs. And it was unfortunate, but it was good to see, I would say, toward the end of the 70s. I'm just sort of guessing here, but you started to see things you didn't see before. Biracial attendance in the College Bowl games, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that helped to turn things around to the point now where, the whole idea of discrimination and even the whole idea of hatred seems to have been really removed from our regular societal efforts.
Makes things better. For some reason, this example is coming into my head. There's a very famous college football game. You mentioned the bowl games. The very famous college football game, I think it was 1970, where Bear Bryant deliberately invited USC to come and play on Alabama's home field because Alabama was still not a desegregated football team. And he wanted to show the fans what they were missing out on because he knew that USC was going to kick their butt, and they did. USC beat them very easily. And from that, and it was a very short period after that Alabama decided to desegregate, and they had black football players. This is one example, and that's just sports. But, of course, that's a big part of the economy down there, so
absolutely.
I think it's both economics and
By
sports.
1974, Alabama was the number one team in the nation. But, you really have to admire the courage. And, of course, he had the standing to implement this, and I'm sure there was a lot of pushback. But it really it opened a new door in college football. And I think in a lot of ways, it opened a door about people learning how to live together. Because what happened after the end of the game, Alabama lost, Southern Cal won. They all shook hands.
Yeah.
And that's that's what America is.
And it was a night game. So it had real premier, it was really in the spotlight, both literally and figuratively. Yeah. And, these are the kinds of things that so many of us can agree on. But, I'm sorry. I just see so many politicians trying to take advantage of days like Juneteenth or the debate over curricula in schools. And they really want it to be they say, we want a conversation about racism. But what they really want is a browbeating. And, I'm sorry, it's tragic, but the people who deserve to be browbeaten over slavery in America have been dead for over 100 years. I'm sorry to say this. That's the way it is. And so there's got to be a way that we can teach this history, not leave anything out, get into the evils of it without deciding that this is time for some kind of payback. I mean, how are you getting a payback on some kid going to school now, even in college? It's ludicrous.